action is so important because that's how we will take it up the ladder to have all these people in places of power make these conscious decisions by starting with ourselves. Yeah. So how's your journey been?
What is the weather like with you just now? What are you seeing outside your window?
Yeah, so today is actually not so bad. June, July is the coldest months in Kenya. It's kind of our winter, but temperatures just go as low as maybe 15 degrees.
Oh, amazing. I mean, well, I'm in obviously Scotland and I just looked this up. It's 15 degrees, lots of rain, and this is our summer. I just enjoyed the subject geography when I was at school. Oceans and rivers and like communities all around. It's amazing. It's beautiful. But then you also learn about the impact that we're having. I just really felt like, what am I supposed to do with this information? I started an Instagram for the year of 2018. I was going to like set myself a challenge. It was a bit of a New Year's resolution where I said, I'm just going to try and reduce my waste, like be more sustainable, but just see where it takes me. So I didn't have any sort of idea of what it might look like, but I just started to make small changes.
I do see we have a lot of similarities, especially in the work that we do. So my background is in law. I am an environmental lawyer, but I have like kind of transitioned more into social and development work. And yeah, so they do mangrove restoration there. So we combine the capacity building with technology to sort of scale their restoration work, but also do monitoring of their restoration because they don't really do a lot of that at the moment. So yeah, right now I'm co-founder at the startup, but I'm also doing a lot of stuff on the side with waste management. And I don't know if you know this movement called Tuesdays for Trash.
Yeah.
So I'm the chapter lead for Kenya. I started the Kenyan chapter. My passion, which is really waste management.
Do you have a vision for the community that you live in?
Absolutely. I mean, of course, this will bring me back to waste management because that's like my point of contact with climate change. I honestly just envision a clean street. I mean, it feels so basic, but we don't have that.
Yeah.
I would love to just take a walk with my nephew or my niece and not have to skip over trash. It's just like those simple things, and which is why I do the things that I do because I'm like, I did not get to do this, but I would want my kids to be able to safely take a walk in the neighborhood.
Actually, we do need individuals to make changes, but we also need companies to be helping us by making their products more sustainable. Or we need policymakers and governments to see the areas that they can make policies better and greener. So it led me into the kind of campaigning space for thinking about all the different ways that we can be making change that's within communities and kind of bigger. And that kind of, yeah, just kind of naturally led on to, I guess, what now we would call an activist, but actually being an activist doesn't look one way. There's lots of different ways that you can do it. And I think lots of people probably are activists that maybe wouldn't use that word. But I think that was a bit of my journey. It was sort of the same, there wasn't like one moment where I suddenly thought, okay, yeah, this is what I'm going to be doing. It was kind of a gradual sort of learning and seeing different opportunities and trying out different things. Some of it's been really easy, some of it's been quite challenging. But I think that's kind of how it's grown and developed. But I mean, for the stuff that you've been doing, I guess you've been at university, you've founded, lots of different things. Have there been any like really big challenges that you have come across when you've been doing the work you've been doing?
There are people talking about climate change, I mean, in Africa generally and in Kenya, but I do feel like we can really do better with taking the conversations down to the grassroots levels as opposed to just having all these national policies and laws and whatever that people don't feel like they can relate to because it doesn't really speak to their daily life. I mean, I do now live in Nairobi, but I grew up in the northern parts of Kenya, which is more like arid and semi-arid lands. So back then when I was growing up, my grandfather had a farm. And I do actually remember as a kid going to the farm with him and doing like a bit of, obviously I was a kid, so I wasn't very helpful, but it just helped me being in that environment. And I do remember like taking home, lots of produce. But then by the time I was going to high school, all of that had changed because the weather patterns were already changing. There wasn't enough water. And so those have just like really become worse over time. Especially last year, we had like one of the worst droughts in Kenya.
How do you stay positive in the face of quite a lot of challenge in the climate change space?
For me, it's been creating a community or being part of a community, like seeing what other young people in the world are doing is really encouraging, just to know that, yeah, I'm not alone. There's so many other people all over the world that are waking up every day just to create a positive impact.
I would love people to be connected to nature. I don't mean you have to go and hike all of the mountains in Scotland, but just go to a green space every day, if possible. That would be like my vision. Because I think when you have a community of people that care, no one has to give up anything to be a bit more sustainable to help climate change. It's just about us all changing and adapting. And it's not about sacrifice.
Yeah. So what about you? What are you going to do for the rest of the year?
We have a big problem with things called disposable vapes. So they're like electronic cigarettes and they have surged onto the market. We have millions of them being sold every single week in the UK. And it's creating a lot of waste and it's creating a lot of new waste because it's not just plastic, it's not just metal, it's electronic devices that people are throwing away. And so that's the big campaign that I'm doing at the moment.
That's awesome. I will be following that because I know vaping is also becoming a problem in Kenya. So it's really caught on. It's
people like you and I who've got platforms online, like it is our responsibility maybe to kind of, work against some of these challenges, to think about how can we be communicating this really well, painting an image of like, this is the world that we can create.